My name is Ken Rabinowitz, and welcome to this Restoring the Hebrew Roots of Our Christian Faith. And you can see today I have a very important dear friend of mine as a guest. He came in from New Jersey. His name is Pastor Linus Batiste. Welcome, Pastor Linus. It's good to see you again.
Well, thank you, Pastor Kenny. How you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm so glad to see you. It's been way too long, and I want to talk to you about something that's near and dear to my heart. You know, we've been on a journey, my wife and I, about restoring the Hebrew roots of our Christian faith, and I know that you're getting into that journey too.
Yes.
How do you see the church today, the congregations that you've seen around? What's going on?
Well, I'm really turned off with what I really see, because when I go to church, all what I see, they just preach about prosperity. Okay. And they're not preaching about anything else, but it's just prosperity.
Well, what do they need to change it around? We get the people excited about the word and getting back into the old covenant and seeing that it's been restored and not abolished. What do you see they need to do?
Well, they need to preach about Yahweh, Jesus Christ. They need to speak more about Him and not so much about abundance of prosperity. They need to preach more of the Word and go deep into the Word. And when they go deep into the Word, then they will see the miracles and blessings what Jesus Christ is talking about.
So you think then they need to do a little more of the studying to show yourself approved, as opposed to just listening to the pastor? And the pastor that they're trying their best to teach, but the pastor isn't always right, is he?
Not all the time.
Okay.
I mean, the Bible says, study yourself to show yourself approved, to get into the Word. Okay. Get down deep into the Word and ask God to give you revelation. So as you're reading the Word and you speak to God, and God will give you revelation of when you go out to minister, you could bring the revelation that the Lord gave you. But most people are preaching out of self.
Okay, that's a big difference.
Yes, they're preaching out of self because they have a gift, gift for the gab, and so they think because they already have that gift, they could continue to preach that word.
Okay, so they need to get into the season of what is God or what is Yahweh doing now with the congregations. You could have gotten a revelation about something, and you could call that that was the cloud we were in.
Right.
Okay? Mm-hmm. But now the cloud has moved on.
Moved on, yes.
So you can't stay in a past revelation. You got to move when the cloud moves, or else you're going to be left behind.
That's right.
This has been an incredible journey for my wife and myself. We were even asked to leave a church because of our journey, where we were in our journey. Mm-hmm. We were, from a Jewish background, we wanted to see the church having a Shabbat or a Sabbath service on like a Friday night, when the Sabbath would be, like Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. And we asked the pastor, would it be okay? And he said, well, why don't you start in your home? And we had people come into our home. We got up to about 13 people. But the thing was, everybody that was there was hungry. Right. They wanted to know truth. There was a lot of truth in what the pastor said, but we really wanted to know truth. We wanted to get back into the original Hebrew or the original Greek and find out, is what he or she's saying lining up with that word? So we got on this journey, and the journey's been incredible. As you start to learn in your journey, you're going to make some mistakes, but in that journey, he opens you up. What was maybe you could share with the audience some of the things that maybe you've learned in this journey that before, when you were doing regular church, some things changed for you in this journey. Maybe you could share what are some of those things that changed for you in this journey.
Well, as I have a one-on-one with Christ, and He began to teach me. Okay. He's teaching me, He's giving me revelation. So I start walking in a different walk. So my ignorance of what I didn't know, now he start revealing to me. So what a lot of preachers nowadays, they're ignorant to the fact of what the journey is.
So let me ask you. Okay, so you said there was some ignorance concerning where you were in your journey. Could you share with everyone, is there something that you could just tell us that really changed for you in your understanding, that now you see it better than you did before?
Well, as for Sabbath,
I was just thinking of Sabbath. We're on the same
Sabbath,
page.
you know, and then the Sunday worship.
So what changed for you on that?
Well, change. Well, I start seeing a different light, the truth. Start going down, reading the Word, and start counting the time where Jesus said He created the world, and start when He finished it.
Okay.
So I'm going deep and start counting the amount of days. He said He finished in 6 days, and His Sunday is the beginning of the week.
Okay.
You know, so Saturday must be the time of rest of Sabbath.
Okay.
So which is on a Saturday.
Right. So it's actually in the Hebrew calendar. It's
right.
Friday sundown to Saturday sundown.
Right.
So you starting to celebrate that now?
Well, I knew about that a while, but I didn't really take it in. But now I'm taking it in because I want to know true about the Hebrew roots.
So you're taking ownership of it. You're
Right.
making it your own now.
Right. Because
Okay.
I want to get the true prosperity, the true blessing out of what I'm getting from the Hebrew roots.
So did Yeshua is the Aramaic of
Right.
the Greek Jesus, and Yehoshua is the Hebrew.
Right.
So you'll find me saying, you know, depending on who I'm with, I'll say Yeshua,
Right.
or I'll say Yehoshua, or I'll say
Right.
Jesus. So now, for in your understanding now where you are in your journey, did Yeshua teach that the Sabbath was changed from the Friday sundown to Saturday sundown to Sunday? Did he teach that?
No.
Did it change?
No, he didn't. And how the Sunday come about? The Sunday is man-made because through the Roman Catholic.
Okay.
Right. Through the Roman Catholic, because the Roman Catholic is a big organization. They practically control the churches, the body.
So why do you think the Roman Catholic Church changed it?
Because as they begin to preach, because everybody grew up. A lot of people that grew up know the Roman Catholic. You know?
Okay.
And because they know the Roman Catholic, so therefore that was the law to go church on a Sunday.
Okay, well, one of the things that the church does is there was a service that Paul had. It's I think it's in the book of Acts.
Right.
And it was started on their Saturday,
Right.
but he says it was the first day of the week. And he's preaching, and there's this young boy, like I think he's 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And as Paul was preaching, this young man falls asleep. And he's sitting on the windowsill,
Mm-hmm.
and because he was sleeping, he fell backwards. He fell out the window, and he basically died when he hit the ground.
Right.
Paul goes back out, and he raises him from the dead.
Yeah.
But the church uses that to teach. Well, Paul said on the first day of the week we should assemble. Do you think Paul changed it then?
Well, he mentioned, but he didn't change. Why is people take a piece of the Bible and start preaching it and start make it a message and start getting followers?
Okay. Here in my journey,
Right.
okay, what I've learned, that with the Jewish people,
Mm-hmm.
when they close out the Sabbath,
Right.
they have another service that helps bring them in to the first day or the beginning of the new week.
Right.
That service at the end of Shabbat is called Havdalah.
Havdalah.
Havdalah. Havdalah. Like Havdalah.
Right.
Havdalah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And when I was in Israel with a friend of mine, we were there during the Passover, and we were in the old city.
Right.
And we were there on the Sabbath in the old city. And all of a sudden, all these Hasidic Jews are coming in to the old city at the end of the Sabbath. Thousands are coming in to Jerusalem. And I realized they were celebrating Havdalah, how to close out Shabbat.
Right.
They get there at the end of Shabbat, and it carries over into the first day of the new week. So it would be on our Saturday,
Right.
that it goes into the Sunday from the Hebrew calendar,
Right.
but it would still be our Saturday.
Right.
And so, but that technically is the beginning of the first day of the week. And so they were having a service to close out Shabbat.
Right.
It wasn't where Paul's saying, or even Jews say, all Jews all over the world do that. Especially the Orthodox do that.
Right.
At the end of Shabbat. So this was normal. It wasn't like, hey, okay, listen, we're going to make the Sabbath on Sunday, and they believe that Yeshua rose from the dead on Sunday.
Right.
Do you? Is that something that you agree with, or you see it differently? That he didn't rise on Sunday? I don't want to put you on the spot here.
Well, I'm still looking into it.
Okay.
I'm still studying and looking in. I mean, that's why growing up, he rose on a Sunday.
Okay.
All right.
So I got to ask you a question then. So, but it says that most Christians in the world celebrate Good Friday.
Right.
And they say he was crucified on Good Friday, when the sun he's already in the tomb on at the end of the day,
right,
which would have been the Friday beginning of Saturday. So how do we get 3 days and 3 nights and he rise on Sunday? How do we do that?
Well, it's from what other people have teach.
Okay.
I mean, we read it in the Bible, but really and truly we don't know what day is.
Okay.
You know,
I'm going to go on the line here.
Okay.
And you may agree with me, you may disagree with me. But that's okay. We love each other. It's okay.
Well, as growing up, like, I must say something. As growing up,
we
always, as me growing up as a kid and being a Catholic, and because I grew up as a Catholic, I've always taught it was Good Friday and Jesus Christ rose on a Sunday.
On a Sunday, right.
But as I go deep in the Jewish faith, I'm seeing something different.
Okay.
So I'm making an understanding, and I'm studying more, and to press on the studying that I'm knowing, getting to know now that is being revealed to me.
So in your journey,
right,
Yeshua is beginning to reveal something to you, and you want to know more.
Right.
Okay. Maybe I could be a blessing to you and help you out.
Well, you used to write to the
I did to your newspaper and shared some things.
Right.
In my understanding, okay, the Passover that Yeshua celebrated, it was it's always on the 14th of Nisan.
Right.
The 15th of Nisan starts another festival.
Okay.
Which was the Feast of Unleavened Bread. That first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the 15th of Nisan, is a high Sabbath. Okay? No work is to be done on the high Sabbath.
Right.
Different from the weekly Sabbath.
Right.
That year, and they could go back in time, with NASA and the calendar, and they could go back and they could find out what day of the week Nisan the 14th came out on.
Right.
And most scholars have showed that from my studies, that year Nisan 14 was on a Wednesday. So they had, remember now, he had to have already gone through the scourging and the crucifixion and be in the grave, they said, before the Sabbath.
Right.
People have thought in the church that Sabbath was the weekly Sabbath. That's where a lot of confusion comes in. But it wasn't the weekly Sabbath. It was the high Sabbath of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. That week, there were 2 Sabbaths. The 15th, which was the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the beginning, the first day.
Right.
And then the regular weekly Sabbath.
Right.
So now, they said he had to be dead before so they could celebrate their Passover. Okay? So now, we're at the end of the 14th, he's putting in the grave before sundown on the 14th.
Right.
They go to celebrate at the beginning of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. They have their dinner. He's in the grave at the end of Wednesday the 14th. So if I take 3 days and 3 nights, 72 hours, I go end of Wednesday to the end of Thursday is day 1. End of Thursday, we're talking about sundown, not the Roman calendar. End of Thursday to end of Friday is day 2. So end of Friday would be the beginning of the Sabbath, the weekly Sabbath. End of Friday to end of Saturday would be day 3. So he would have had to have risen at the end of the weekly Sabbath as being day 3.
Right.
And then immediately celebrate the Feast of the First Fruits of the Harvest which would have been the next day, okay? Because now he becomes the high priest after the order of Melchizedek, and he has to be the one. And he has to. That's why Mary found him in the garden, and remember she didn't recognize him.
Right.
And why would he be in the garden? He would be in the garden because now he's the high priest. Not after the Aaronic ministry, but after the order of Melchizedek, and he had to wave the barley sheaf offering to start the harvest.
Yes, yes.
So I'm submitting to you and pray about it. And now that you heard it, you got to study it.
No,
now
well, I've been studying it, and of course, the rabbi, we've been talking about it, and I've gone online and pulling up about the fish.
So when you're talking about rabbi for the audience, this is a Christian man who's from a Jewish background, who we call rabbi.
Rabbi.
Okay, so that they know it's not an Orthodox Jewish rabbi that goes to the synagogue. It's a different person.
Right.
Okay. Okay. So.
But he's very knowledgeable.
Yes.
Of it. And when I did my homework going online and pulling up stuff from online and seeing about the different fish.
Okay.
You know, so that started got me interested.
Sure.
So I wanted to know more because now I'm hungry to know the truth.
Right.
So and I start digging, and I'm learning the truth of it. So then I share with different people, and I share in the church, Global Kingdom Life Changing Center.
So they've been open to this?
Of course.
Well, they've been fighting you?
No, some of them is good at it. But people are ignorant. But when you start sharing light on it, they start getting into it. And when they go into the Word of God, they start reading, you know, and start seeing it differently.
Right.
You know, because a few churches I know now, they start doing the Sabbath, they start changing the thoughts they used to have before. And start doing different things.
Are they starting to celebrate the feast?
Some of them.
Okay.
Some of them.
What do you think is the block? Why do you think many of them are not?
Because they don't know about it.
They haven't been taught.
Right, they have not been taught. And if there's someone willing to taught them, they would listen. So
do you think it's important for them to understanding the times?
Well, it's very important because if they put in the talif on and they want to blow the shofar and all that, it's very important for them to know what's the meaning. Because if you're going to do something, you need to know the background of what it means.
Right. Why are we putting on the talit? Why are we blowing the shofar? What does it mean? Is there any power in blowing the shofar?
There is power in blowing the shofar. It changes when you blow the shofar. It changes. And then when you put on the talif, there's power in the talif because the authority is in the talif. And I could testify to that. There's a time I had a pain in my shoulder, and it wouldn't go away. But when I put the talif on and I pray, I could feel the difference. And now that pain is gone. It was a pain I had earlier this year. It was really bugging me. But when I put the talif on and I begin to pray.
So you think that the talit healed you?
By faith. With my faith.
By faith in what?
In
the talit or in Yeshua?
In Yeshua.
Okay.
Because the authority that wears the talif. Because the talif is a symbol of him.
Right.
But because of the authority.
Exactly.
Right.
Do you know of an example in the Gospels? In the Gospels, where he was wearing the talit, and there was a person that came. And do you know the story I'm talking about?
The woman with the issue of blood.
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe you could tell them a little bit about what happened.
The woman with the issue of blood, when she reached out and touched the talif, because the authority was in the talif, he said by her faith, by just reaching out by her faith, she's been made whole.
So it transferred from him through the talif because she came by faith. The connection was made, and it manifested in her body.
Yes, sir.
Doctors were not able to help her, but she by faith came.
Right.
And Yeshua said, "Who touched me?" And he knew something happened because he felt it leave him through his garment.
The virtue leave
Right.
him, and it felt because he's the authority. So the authority is had the talif, and through the talif, you know, the little.
I have them on here now.
Right.
I'm wearing them on my pants. I don't know if you'll be able to see them here, but I'm wearing. These are called seats.
Right.
And they have
many
the knots on there.
Right. And she hold on to that.
Okay.
And when she hold that to that, because the authority, Yahshua,
right,
was in it. You know what I'm saying?
Because see, one of the things also the talit is it's a reminder. It's a reminder of who you are in Him.
That's right.
And it's there to be, really before us, because it not only as a reminder, but when you're aware that it's a part of what you're wearing, it helps you to do things correctly, and not do things that are stupid or bad decisions. And we were having a discussion. You had called me many weeks, maybe about 2 or 3 months ago.
Well, I know you were supposed to teach.
Yeah.
About the Hebrew faith.
Well, I was supposed to teach specifically about the pomegranate.
The pomegranate. And then.
Well, maybe
I was supposed to go down there.
Yeah, you were supposed to come. I invited you to come. And it was going to be in Brooklyn on Flatbush Avenue. I'm not going to say people's names. I'm not going to do that.
Well, I know the church. I know the place where it was that event was supposed to.
Right. And it's well publicized. Right. Love Express, everything. And I'm ready to teach on the pomegranate anointing. And there were some really nice things about it. And there was a gentleman there for the week who was the main speaker.
He's a well-known German pastor, and he has preached many places across the globe. He's very known in England.
Right. So he was there, and this is a little later on in the week. I was there on a Sunday initially. I came out from Lancaster, PA, and drove into New York City, and we started, and we had a couple people blowing the shofar to open it up, and then even had a Palestinian believer, who loves the Jewish people, was there, named Mazin Wara, and I'm there at this meeting. I'm sitting near the front. The music is going, and now the audience is mainly Haitian believers, mainly. And there's a mix, but mainly it's Haitian believers. And they're talking about the winds, different kinds of winds, tailwinds, headwinds, how, one comes at you like if you're on a plane and it makes your journey longer. And that was a likened to like demons, things that would try and stop you or delay you. And then you have like the wind that comes behind you that pushes you forward.
The south wind, the four winds.
Right.
Well, it's the four wings.
Okay.
That from the east, northwest, and south. And basically they say the south wing is a wing could hinder your blessings.
Okay.
Or hold you back.
Right. So one of the things, the meetings in the week was about getting delivered from things that would try and hinder you in your walk.
Right.
And the night before I came, they were talking about people receiving the gift of a prayer shawl or a talit.
Okay.
And it was said to the people, if you come with $170 in an envelope, we'll give you a brand new talit that'll be especially anointed for you. Okay? I can see you laughing already. So people start coming up with their envelopes. They got $170 in there. And they take a brand new talit. But I'm looking at the talit. I know a good one from a cheap one.
Right, of course.
These were unfortunately
the cheap
ones that were maybe $20, $30.
$20.
Okay? I was going to say 20, but okay. And they're paying $170. So I'm thinking, that's a cheap talit. Why not bless the people with really good ones? They got to pay $170. They made a lot of money on it. And he's putting it on their shoulders, but he's not really praying for them. He just puts it on their shoulders and they go sit down. So I'm thinking, shouldn't they know the little teaching about the talit and what it's for and how the blessing flows, and none of that was going on?
Well, this is where I go back, if ignorance, because people just see people having the talif and they think, oh, if I have a talif, great things is going to happen, because they have heard some teaching, but they don't really know
all of it,
all what's behind it.
Right.
So it's a fashion what people wants to get, because they want to be in the fashion.
Oh, I think I'm really flowing now with the things that's going on now in the church.
Right, because they have heard testimony about the talif, and now because they want to have one, so they don't. And now because they have the opportunity to get the talif, and they think, oh, $170 is nothing for me to get this, and they've been tricked.
Right. So the service is going on, right? These people sit down with their tallit. They can't read the Hebrew prayer on it.
No.
I can read the Hebrew prayer,
of course.
And I had the translation. They actually allowed me to do this because I felt bad for the people, so I wanted them to learn a little bit.
Well, you wanted to teach them when you knew what you
Right.
came to do.
Right. So now the minister is continuing to share and talks about the Red Sea and the wind coming in and how it parts. Well, the people, as he's continuing to speak,
they're pouring.
They start to run up to the stage, and they're putting down $10, $20 on the stage, believing that now they're going to get delivered or healed, because now they're putting the money up there.
Right.
And I'm going, oh my God, why are these people doing this? They have to understand that in their salvation, when you say yes to Yeshua,
right,
we are baptized into his death, his burial, and his resurrection.
Amen.
So on the third day when he rises, because it says, just as the Father's in the Son, and the Son is in the Father, so are they in us, and we are in them.
He said, as you bind in me, I'll bind in you.
Right, we become one. So now he rises in resurrection life, and so do we spiritually. So that resurrection life that has overcome the keys of death and hell,
that's right,
is in us.
That's right.
So now you and I, everyone that's listening, can walk free from sickness and disease. I don't have to go and put $10 on the stage or $20 on the stage, and now God's going to heal me when He already did it in Yeshua.
Well, you're paying for healing. Are you paying for
well, that's what they were doing.
This is what they're doing
because they didn't have the teaching. Well, this ends today's segment of this interview with Pastor Linus Batiste. We're going to continue this in the next segment. Again, my name is Ken Rabinowitz. The name of this show is Restoring the Hebrew Roots of Our Christian Faith. You can reach me at 914-329-2855. And you can also reach me by email at rabinowitzk, RABINOWITZK at yahoo.com. God bless you and shalom.
Shalom.